Hello everybody and welcome back to another not applicable Formula 1 video. I hope that you are well. I hope you're ready and raring to go for the Mexican Grand Prix. So we've got a triple header on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Mexico, Brazil, Qatar coming at you fast and furious. But before then, I would want to have a little chat about this man here, Lando Norris, who has been, in my opinion, the form driver of 2021. If you had to make me pick my driver of the season, 5 races before the end, I think I would have to go for Lando Norris. And recently, he's come under a little bit of criticism for his driving and a little bit of criticism for his recent results, which I personally think is quite harsh. Now, I will get my biases out of the way. I am a McLaren fan. I'm a huge Lando Norris fan as well. And for me, I think Lando Norris has been the man that has dragged us to third in the Constructors' Championship. Without him, we'd be nowhere near third. Ferrari have been very good. Both Ferrari drivers, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, have been excellent. I've said throughout this season, I think that Ferrari have the best driver lineup. But I absolutely love Lando Norris. And considering, he's been with Daniel Ricciardo, and Daniel Ricciardo for me has been very 50-50 this season. Like, he's had very good races and very, very poor races indeed. Yes, his form has sort of turned around a little bit, but I want to talk about Lando Norris because, as I said, he's come under a little bit of criticism for his last few races. And I wanted to delve into whether this is a problem for Lando Norris or whether it is just, a little bit of a form dip towards the end of the season. We've got to remember that Lando Norris came into the sport with George Russell and Alex Albon, who is coming back onto the grid next year. And that is a hell of a driver lineup to come up against in your first rookie year. And Lando Norris, of those three, George Russell, who is continually talked about as a Formula 1 world champion after obviously winning F2, Lando Norris was the driver that won Rookie of the Year. So out of those three, he's already shown that he has quality. And for me, as I said, we've seen that third year effect. George Russell has been phenomenal this season, absolutely electric in a Williams, and has done some incredible, incredible things. I would say that Lando Norris has done even more incredible things in that McLaren, to be honest with you. And I know it's so difficult to judge those two because the cars that they are driving are at complete other ends of the spectrum in terms of where they sit in the Constructors' Championship. Like Williams getting 23 points is mesmeric, but at the same time, Lando Norris has done an exceptional job at McLaren, so it's so hard to judge those two. And both of them would probably be up there in my top 3 or 4 drivers this season, but I think Lando Norris has been better. But all that said, Lando Norris has set an incredibly high standard for himself and has started to come under some fire for recent results, mainly the US and Turkey, and also in the Netherlands as well. He's come under a bit of criticism for not keeping up this pace that he was showing throughout the whole season. Obviously, the Ferraris are catching up in the Constructors' Championship, and Daniel Ricciardo has outperformed Lando Norris in the last few races. So where has this sort of criticism come from? And I think personally, Lando Norris has almost set the bar too high for himself so that we're expecting that week in, week out. Like, he has been absolutely incredible this season. Going into the summer break, we've got to remember, he was in 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. 3rd place is amazing. He was beating out a Red Bull. He was beating out a Mercedes. And I know that Perez and Bottas have now taken that position back from him and he's dropped down to 5th. But even halfway through the season, to still be ahead of a Red Bull and a Mercedes is wonderful. He's picked up podiums in Imola, Monaco, and Austria, the second race. Obviously, that 2nd place in Monza, and what should have been a win in Russia. Like, if we actually just look at his results, they have been astounding this season. 4th, 3rd, 5th, and 8th in Spain was the lowest he got in the first half of the season, apart from Hungary, and that was completely Valtteri Bottas's fault. But then you can see what I mean by this trend. Belgium probably should have been on pole, and 14th does not represent the weekend that he had. He was really unfortunate to obviously get into that crash and get into that problem later on. If he wouldn't have crashed out in that race, would we have seen him take pole? Probably. Would we have then seen him win the race with half points? Also probably. So it's not really his fault that the Belgium result doesn't sit in there. It's Netherlands, Russia, Turkey, and USA, which is coming under a little bit of criticism for. But then sandwiched in the middle there is a 2nd place in Italy. Could have been a win. Daniel Ricciardo, I think, was a little bit lucky to be the McLaren driver to get that win, because Lando Norris has been the man for McLaren, and I think he'll be quite upset that sort of came about, and he wasn't able to go on and win that race in Italy or the race in Russia either. So I think the criticism that he's coming under for obviously not getting the results in the second half of the season, I think Belgium, Italy, Russia could have been all completely different races for him. I think he could have got much, much higher in those. Netherlands, the McLaren just wasn't really there. And also Turkey and the USA, he looked a little bit off the pace and sort of off colour. And that's where the sort of debate has come into, hasn't it? Because after the Russian Grand Prix, he seems a little bit not like himself. He's obviously going to be massively disappointed with Russia. At the end of the day, it was kind of his mistake. You know, the team were saying, do you want to come in? Do you want to come in? They put a lot of pressure on his shoulders to pick whether or not it was time to come into the pits. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton was bearing down on him as well. So for me, I think it's a really harsh question to ask whether or not he has been good enough this season, or whether we should be worried about him going into these final few races. The only thing I did then notice is that actually, when you look at his results from last season, and obviously completely different car, obviously had a Renault engine to begin with, and also a completely different teammate in Carlos Sainz, we do also see a drop-off towards the end of the season. Like, he was ahead of Sainz throughout the entire season. Sainz was just lagging behind Lando Norris by quite a considerable margin, actually, by the sort of middle of the season. And then again, if you look at that second half of the season, it's just not quite as consistent. It's not quite as good as the first half. And that made me sort of think, and made me want to ask you, obviously, this is a tiny, tiny pool of data. We've only seen him in Formula One for 3 seasons, and only 2 seasons where he hasn't been that rookie driver, learning the car, learning the circuits, and learning and understanding everything about the sport itself. But he was comfortably ahead of Sainz for those first 10 races, stayed ahead until Turkey, which was the 14th race into the season. But then by the time we got to the final couple of races, he was behind Carlos Sainz. And obviously Carlos Sainz had to put in some incredible performances. But at the same time, is this a trend that we will see with Lando Norris? Does he not quite have, that cycle in him, that understanding of Formula One, that tenacity about him to go through the entire season? And as I said, that is me being as harsh as I can possibly be on Lando Norris, who I think has been the driver of the season. But I'm just saying, if we see 2020, he dropped off towards the end of the season. 2021, it looks like he's going to drop off towards the end of this season too. Is this something to be worried about in the future? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. As I said, that is incredibly harsh of me, but I think it's a question that is worth asking at this point in the season, because every single year he's made progression. 11th in the World Drivers' Championship, 9th in the World Drivers' Championship, now 5th in the World Drivers' Championship with 5 races left to go. And for me, he needs to maintain that 5th place. But we'll get onto that in a second, because the final thing I do want to actually have a little bit of a delve into is this media pressure that is on Lando Norris. I think the problem that Lando Norris might be coming into is the media and how he is portrayed in the media all of the time. Because I don't know whether it's me or whether it's the circles that I'm in or the news that I'm subjected to, but... And I understand this is incredibly hypocritical because I'm literally making a video about him, which is media. But when it comes to him, he seems to always get questions from the media that no other driver would ever get. And, he is very personable. I absolutely love Lando Norris. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of his Twitch streams and his YouTube content. He seems very personable. And because of the amount of content that there is of him, I can understand why people have that sort of connection with him and friendship with him. But at the same time, he is being terrorized by the media all of the time about such minor things. I think I saw a Sky article the other day about whether or not he's got a girlfriend. Should it matter? He gets asked this every single media interview. He gets asked whether or not he has a girlfriend. It just doesn't matter. Ask him about Formula One. He's a Formula One driver. And also the Wembley incident and his watch. We go back to that again. Every time you type in Lando Norris, that is still up there as one of the main results. Something that he will want to completely forget about, but it was something he was questioned on over and over and over again at that point in time. And again, Russia, he is going to be really upset about Russia. He is a young kid. And he's getting questioned about it over and over and over again. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? How come you lost that race? And if I was Lando Norris, I'd kind of want to just hide in a little bit of a shell for a moment, you know. I've just lost the opportunity to win my first ever Formula One race. I'm dropping off a little bit compared to my teammate who's now starting to, you know, progress and get better results than I am. And I can understand this pressure that Lando Norris puts on himself, let alone these arbitrary things that the media also packs on top of him all of the time. And I just feel really sorry for Lando Norris. So what does Lando Norris need to do in the future? Just to sort of summarize my thoughts, with 5 races left to go, I think, you know, the real goal for him is maintaining 5th in the Drivers' Championship. He's got a little bit of a gap to Charles Leclerc. And as I said, astounding that he was in 3rd place going into the summer break. So he has given himself a good buffer to the guys behind him, but needs to maintain that 5th place over Charles Leclerc, not drop into, you know, the Ferraris or even Daniel Ricciardo, who is gaining points on him slowly, but hopefully won't gain enough over the next few races. And I think if he finishes 5th this season, he just has to take the positives out of that. That is an absolutely wonderful season. Like, that is best of the rest. You would not expect him to beat out Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez in Red Bulls and Mercedes that have just been incredible throughout the entire season, have been winning constantly, you know. And when it comes to Lando Norris, he just needs to take the positives from the season, not let the pressure get to him, and drive next year, reboot, recharge, reset, and go again. Because I think he could be absolutely phenomenal next year. I think with the changes and regulations, with McLaren possibly being better than ever, I think he is the driver to take the team forward. As much as I love Daniel Ricciardo, I think Lando Norris is the man. If there's one guy I want to keep in the team, if you had to ask me today, get rid of one of your 2 drivers, Lando Norris is the one I'm keeping. Lando Norris is the man I want to win a World Drivers' Championship in the future with McLaren. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So leave a like, leave a subscription more than anything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.